The Berlin Wall, an iconic symbol of the Cold War, a dividing line between East and West. But what if I told you the story of how it came down is far more incredible than you think? Today, we're uncovering the untold truth behind the fall of the Berlin Wall and the shocking events that led to the end of the Cold War. Stick around. This is a story of hope, tension, and unexpected twists. The Berlin Wall, standing tall for 28 years, split Germany and the world in half. On one side, the Communist East, controlled by the Soviet Union. On the other, the democratic West, backed by the United States. It was a symbol of the bitter divide between superpowers during the Cold War. But in the fall of 1989, that wall came down in a stunning, almost surreal turn of events. How did this happen? Was it a carefully planned strategy, or was it the result of a series of unexpected decisions, missteps, and revolutions? Let's take a closer look at how the Berlin Wall fell and what it really meant for the world. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, was already changing. Gorbachev's policies of glasnost, openness, and perestroika, restructuring, were aimed at reforming Soviet society. These ideas were revolutionary, transforming not only the Soviet Union, but also the entire Eastern Bloc. Meanwhile, across Eastern Europe, the Soviet grip was loosening. Revolutions were brewing. Countries like Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia were rising up against their authoritarian governments, inspired by Gorbachev's reforms and the possibility of freedom. The winds of change were blowing across the entire region, but the Berlin Wall was still standing strong, dividing East and West Germany. Now, here's where the story takes a truly unexpected turn. On November 9, 1989, the East German government, in an attempt to ease tensions, made an announcement. Citizens would now be allowed to travel to West Germany, but the details were vague. The information spread like wildfire, and East Berliners, hungry for freedom, rushed to the border. The problem? The guards at the Berlin Wall were caught completely off guard. They weren't prepared for the massive crowds, and when asked when the border would open, they hesitated. In the confusion, one border guard mistakenly opened the gates. Just like that, the Berlin Wall was breached. The crowds surged across, overwhelmed with joy and disbelief. East Berliners had finally broken through, and the world watched as people tore down the wall with hammers and chisels. The Berlin Wall, the symbol of division, was falling. While Gorbachev's policies of openness and reform paved the way for change, it was the people of East Germany who made the wall fall. For years, they had been quietly resisting the oppressive regime. The protests that erupted throughout East Germany in 1989 were massive, with people demanding more freedom, better living conditions, and the right to travel. The peaceful demonstrations gained momentum, and by the time November 9th arrived, the government had lost control of the situation. The streets were full of people ready for change, and they were no longer willing to accept the wall that divided their families, friends, and loved ones. Their voices, their determination, and their courage forced the government's hand, leading to the sudden and seemingly accidental collapse of the Berlin Wall. The fall of the Berlin Wall was not just a victory for Germany, it marked the beginning of the end of the Cold War. It symbolized the collapse of the Eastern Bloc, the disintegration of the Soviet Union, and the triumph of democracy over totalitarianism. For the West, it was a monumental win. It was the final nail in the coffin of the Cold War, and it sent a powerful message. Authoritarian regimes could no longer hold their people hostage. The world was shifting toward freedom and democracy. In Germany, the fall of the wall led to the reunification of East and West Germany, a process that began immediately after the wall came down and was officially completed by October 3, 1990. Families were reunited, people crossed freely from east to west for the first time in decades, and the nation began the process of healing from the division that had scarred it for so long. The fall of the Berlin Wall wasn't just about breaking down physical barriers. It represented a larger, global shift toward freedom and openness. The Berlin Wall had been a physical manifestation of fear. Fear of the outside world, fear of democracy, fear of change. But when it came down, it symbolized a new era. An era where walls were no longer needed to keep people apart. The end of the Cold War wasn't just a political event, it was a human event, one that showcased the power of the people's will to bring about change. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's most iconic moments, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.